Hi class. Today we're going to be looking in depth at Chapter 6, Amateur Sport, and hopefully you've read the chapter at this point and reviewed the PowerPoint, um, and you understand that amateur sport, number one, has millions of participants, ranging from youth all the way up to the seniors. Um, this type of sport, this type of participation is voluntary, it is unpaid. So that's what we're looking at in Chapter 6. I just wanted us to work through a couple of these questions, and maybe gain a little better understanding of the material that you're reading. So the first one, what is the difference between a public and nonprofit sport organization? And then we're going to look at an example of each, and then the governing structures of both of these, the public and the nonprofit. So if you'll see in the notes on your screen, public public sport organizations, you're looking at your city park and rec leagues, recreational sporting leagues, state games, things of that nature. And then if you skip down, you can see the nonprofit sport organizations are your YMCAs, or the Y since it's restructured, Boys and Girls Clubs, things that you all are familiar with, but they're not run by local governing bodies. All right, so then what are the differences there? When you're looking at a park and rec that's run by the city, and I can speak to this because I've got my son is in T-ball now and playing with a local park and rec league, and they are one of numerous departments. You can see that in your notes. One of numerous departments within the organizational structure of the city as a whole. So what that looks like is an organizational chart with 10, 12 different departmental subunits, right? And of those, one of those subunits will be your park and rec, right? So it's a small part of a larger organization when you're looking at public sport organization. And you have elected volunteers for office. And then if you skip down and you're looking at organizations such as, Upward, I don't know, I-9, if some of you are familiar with that, we'll look at that here in a second. The Y and Boys and Girls Clubs, the structure is very different. These are designed to deliver programming with no intent for profit. You have volunteers, you have professionals, and you have some paid staff. I want you to read more about the restructure of the governance of the YMCA, and I want you to understand the bottom-up structure. And so they used to follow a top-down structure, which means the paid professionals at the top level, national level, who maybe have no idea what's going on in Johnson City, Tennessee, or whatever city you may be in right now. But they're the ones setting the rules and the guidelines and the procedures. They're the ones saying, well, here's what we think our programs need. Okay, well, since then, they have this restructure, and now it's a bottom-up structure. So you have your elected officials that run your local organizations, your local Y, and you elect two of those to go to the regional meetings. And then of the eight or 10 regional organizations, two of those are then selected to go to the national, two from each of those are selected to go to the national level. So it's bottom up. So they're taking the needs, what's truly being done, and where the needs are, and taking it up to the top of the chain and saying, here's what actually needs to happen. So read some more about that. It's very interesting. It's very important for you to understand. And let's scroll up here. All right, so now we're going to look, just take a quick second to look at one of these. If I can find it. Here we go. One of these sport leagues, okay? And so now we're trying to, the question was basically, look up one of these sport organizations and identify whether it's public or private. So at your first glance at I-9 Sports, it looks very organized. You see that there's a lot going on, over 100 million registrations. And so you scroll on down and you can read, you can get on this website and read more about this. But what I wanted us to do we'll scroll down here and we're looking for the governance, the organization, and you can see at the bottom, you see the nonprofit 501c3, right? That tells you what type of organization you're getting ready to be involved with. Or if you're a manager, you're applying for this position, that tells you a little bit more about that governing structure that we just spoke about. So those are just some things to keep in mind. And now let's get back to our cheat sheet. And so just one more quick question to kind of get through, to think about. Choose one example of policy development and need in amateur sport. All right, your book talks somewhat about fundraising, but I want you to dig a little bit deeper, especially if you haven't had the fundraising class. At this point, you need to understand the importance of development or fundraising, which are terms that are interchangeable. So if you hear the word development, just think fundraising. As a sport manager, especially when you're looking at amateur sport, there's not a whole lot of money out there. Government funding for amateur sport, for those smaller leagues, you have to be creative. That's why if any of you have children, or when you have children and they are in these leagues, you're going to get hit up with fundraising. It's a need. They have to support both programming and the infrastructure. So make sure you do your homework with fundraising, and I want you to gain a better understanding through your reading, through the PowerPoint. And certainly if you haven't had the fundraising class, which you have to have before you graduate, to understand the importance of fundraising and creativity, because you as a sport manager are going to be placed in that position of power to where you're going to be making those financial decisions. Okay, as always, I hope that this was helpful, and if you have any questions, email me or give me a call.